Welcome, everybody, to our July monthly mindfulness webinar, and it's called Come to Your Senses, all of them. You know, we typically think of our five senses, but I'm going to really talk about the different senses that we can understand and know from our experience, and it's one of the ways to really increase our mindfulness and bring ourselves to the present moment. So, first practice, just a quick start. Some of you might have done this with me before, but it's a real quick practice. So you just kind of hold your hand up and you trace your hand with your finger. And as you go up and down, you breathe in and out. So you're kind of slowly breathing in and out. You can go as slow as you like. And you're also noticing that sense of touch, right? So as you're tracing your hand, you get to the one side, you can go all the way back. Gives us a chance to really pause. And again, now zero in on that sense of touch and what that feels like to be tracing your hand with your finger. Continuing with the nice regulated breathing. And that's it. That's our quick practice for today. And it's just something you can do anytime, anywhere, but it gives you that sense of being grounded and regulate the breathing and also that sense of touch. So it's the first practice for today. So just want to see how it's going. So I'm wondering how you're doing, how your practice is going, both your formal practice, which simply means getting a chance to sit and meditate or do some sort of formal practice, but also your informal practice, which means any other, quick practice like we just did. Also can mean paying attention to those routine tasks as you're doing them. So how are you doing? Anybody, you can use the chat or you can speak up. That's fine. How's it going with your practice? And love to hear if you have any questions or comments or successes or challenges, whatever they might be. And then in the same vein, how are you doing or how are you being? I mean, that's really why we practice. We've become such creatures of doing and achieving and, our tasks and getting things done all the time. And our mindfulness practice really helps us get into that mode of just being. And just being still for a bit, just being quiet, even if you're not doing a formal practice, even just sitting, looking out the window, getting in touch with nature, you're just really being. And that's good to cultivate that too. Being quiet, being still, and just being in the moment, right? So anybody have any thoughts? How it's going? Want to share anything? Either through the chat or you can unmute. All right. Well, let me know as we go along, and you can use that too. There's a chat I just saw come through. Able to stick to my formal practice. Good for you. Trying to do it before my coffee. Also, another good technique to link it to some other routine thing that you do. Could be better at my informal practices. So work on that a little bit. But getting out definitely helps. Yeah, it does. Especially getting outside. Good time of year to do it. I noticed that doing the practices helps me be patient. So, wow, those are a great comment because that also shows that you notice the benefits of doing it. And another comment here, it's a great help. Good, excellent. Yeah, so those things will help keep our practice going. So keep that up. Thank you for that. And so today we're talking about our senses as a way to just be aware, grow our awareness through our senses. And we're going to cover other senses, including interoception and proprioception and more. You'll see that as we get into it. But all of these provide this path to the present moment because our minds, actually, as you know, will kind of carry us away to the past and the present to strange and weird places. So, let's use the senses. So here's another comment. Hi, Alma. It's my first time taking the class. Welcome. Glad you're here, but I've been working on yourself for good 18 years. gratitude every day, that's probably one of the best practices that's linked to well-being. And I love that comment. I live as everything around me is a miracle. Very good. Very inspirational. Appreciate that. Thanks, Alma. So then just referencing this quote, how exploring my senses got me out of my head and into the world. And that's by Gretchen Rubin, who's written another book on happiness, but her more recent book is Life in the Five Senses, and actually have a slide on that in a couple of minutes. So here's another quick practice that you can do to use the senses. So you can try it right now. If you have a window, you can look outside, but if you don't have a window, just look around you. So just pick out 5 distinct things that you can see and just focus on each one for a second or 2 or 3. And try not to label it, try to look at it as if for the first time, so that you're kind of looking at the color and the shape and the texture of these 5 different things. And then in the same way, 4 things that you hear. If you can hear, be aware of 4 different sounds, whatever they might be. Near sounds, far sounds. Again, the volume, the tone, the pitch. You can mix these up too. The next would be 3 things that you touch. You could maybe make that 4 things you touch if that's easier. Doesn't have to go so rigidly in order, but 3 things you touch, so you could feel it, just your hands touching like we did before, or your skin, the scent, the touch of your clothes on your skin, or the touch of your body sitting in a chair, whatever it might be. 2 things that you smell, and then 1 thing that you taste. And may not be eating, although it's okay for eating now. I know this is lunchtime, so feel free to eat. But when we get to the practice, you might want to stop that for the moment. But this is, noticing the sense of taste if you're having a cup of coffee or tea or something like that. So that's another quick practice just to get in touch with the senses. And then this is the book that I referenced. The link will take you there when you get the slides. I think it takes you to Amazon, but you can read a little bit more about what she covers in the book. And so it's really, I haven't read this particular book, but I did hear her on a podcast. And she talks about, we all have like a certain sense that we favor and a certain sense or more that we disfavor, that we don't tend to focus in on much. So, if you focus in on sounds, maybe you're a music lover, for example, or sights, you might favor that, and you might really be a very visual kind of person. And her point here is, what are a sense or 2 that you're not in touch with all the time? Maybe kind of taking a little bit of an audit for yourself. And I think she actually has a quiz that you can take to show which senses you tend to favor more than others. But that would be one way to cultivate all the senses, so that you're just really expanding your sense and making your overall experience richer by using all of your senses and paying attention to them more. And even that simple exercise we just did is one way to do that. But then this is another way to do this. So soothing the 5 senses for relaxation, and you can see examples for each one under vision. Look at a photo album or on your phone. We all have, many, many photos these days. But look closely at a nature scene, or create an album of things that bring you pleasure or bring a smile to your face. And then there's examples for hearing and taste and touch and smell. So maybe just look through some of that and maybe make a goal to pick one of these if your sense of taste or smell or hearing, whatever it might be, less, that maybe you want to do some of these activities to cultivate that and just really begin to be mindfully aware of that a little bit more. So that's another practice. So it doesn't always have to be, like the traditional meditation kind of practice. You could use one of these to grow and reinforce these. Now, I wanted to mention sometimes considered the 6th sense called interoception. So sensing internal signals inside the body. So you see a list of those, all sorts of things that we can be aware of. And sometimes in many meditation practices, you do kind of feel things from the inside out. And when you really focus on a body scan, for example, you're going through the body and you're being aware of different sensations as you scan down from head to toe. And that can mean internally. There's one where you might feel the movement of the breath inside, the movement of the lungs and the heartbeat, and tensions in the thing, or a sense of pain. If you're having pain in your joints or something like that, it's really an internal kind of sensation, right? So this is really considered another sense to pay attention to. Of course, feeling a sense of when we're hungry or full, when there's cramps, those kinds of things, and all the bodily sensations that we feel. So that's something that you can pay attention to a little bit more, again, to grow your awareness and to slow down a little bit and pay attention. In fact, if you do a mindful eating exercise, they suggest that you eat more slowly so that it gives the body a chance to feel that sense of being satiated. So you tune into being full. And when we do that, you're more likely to not overeat. So just a good practical example of how that can help. Now I know this image, I couldn't find a clearer image, but this, so dancing with the sixth and seventh senses. So the other one is proprioception. And so that sense of movement, or it's, as you, part of it you can read there, the body's ability to sense itself in space. So anytime we're doing any kind of movement, whether it's just simple stretching or yoga or exercise or biking or walking or sports or dancing or any of those kinds of things, just, again, pay more mindful attention to how you notice the body's movement. And usually when we're on autopilot, I don't know about you, but if I'm not paying attention, I'll tend to bump into the island in the kitchen, if I'm not realizing where my body is or where my hip is in relation to the edge of the island. That kind of a thing, usually it's sort of an automatic thing, but sometimes when we're full and our senses are overloaded or we're on autopilot and we're not being that mindful, that's when we tend to be more clumsy and a bit more likely to drop things or bump into things, that kind of thing. So you could use this whole thing as a mindfulness exercise. Movement's a great way to cultivate that. So whether it's walking or, like I said, gentle stretching or yoga, those kinds of things, movement is one way to cultivate that. This is just, I'm trying to give you different resources. This is from the Science of Happiness and the podcast. So this link will take you right there. And there's one in particular, they do these happiness breaks, which are usually 10 to 15-minute practices, which are quite good. And this one is finding delight through your five senses. And this is the one I think that I was referencing with Gretchen Rubin. You'll want to hear her talking about that. So you might want to check that out. So this is the Wheel of Awareness. And I do this occasionally on the Take 10 phone meditations, although now they're Take 10 Teams meditation. I'll show you that on a later slide. But this is from Dr. Dan Siegel, and if you want to read more about him and what he does, there's a link there. But he does this practice where we get in touch with, there's 4 different quadrants, and this is going to be the practice for today. And if you just see the wheel here, the rim of the wheel, the outside, is broken to the 4 quadrants. So one whole quadrant is the 5 senses: touch, taste, smell, sight, and hearing. And then the 6th sense, so that's the interior of the body. I'm going to pay attention to that. Now, the 7th sense, he includes mental activity. So that includes thoughts and emotions and, what's going on, any kind of mental activity, what's going on in the mind. And we can do that in a way so that we don't get carried away or swept away by those. And it's okay if we do, but our mindfulness practice helps us not kind of get totally carried away, but we come back to the anchor or come back to awareness. And then the eighth sense, as he calls it, is interconnectedness. And so we think about people in our lives, and that's the eighth part of it. So we're going to do this practice, and we'll do this right now. So, but let me just pause. Any questions? Covered a lot of ground here, but any questions or comments before we actually do the practice today? And again, feel free to use the chat, but also at the end of the practice, I'd love to hear how the experience was for you. And again, if you have any questions or comments, you can put them in the chat. Okay, so let's do this. This is the Wheel of Awareness based on the work of Dr. Dan Siegel, and just kind of using this image here just as a visual for us. So as always, just begin by getting into a nice comfortable position. Take a moment to adjust if you like. Just get settled in the body. Find a position where you can be relaxed, but also alert and attentive. You can close your eyes if you like, but you can also keep your eyes slightly open with a downward gaze in front of you. Feel the weight of your body in the chair. Feel your feet connecting you to the floor. Just begin by getting mindfully aware. Feel the sense of your breathing, the rhythm of your breathing. Just notice what the breath is like now. And if you like, you might take one or two nice, deep, long breaths. So breathing in, and then breathing out long and slow. And just really, for now, just simply feel the sensations of our breathing. And as you continue to breathe out, visualize the wheel. Now the hub, the center part of the wheel, is that part of us that's aware. The rim, as I pointed out before, is everything in our experience that we take in through the world around us and also internally that we are aware of and everything that we experience. So that's the rim. And we're going to go through each quadrant one by one. But the hub, that's the central part of you, kind of your internal awareness. And for each portion of the practice, we're going to kind of send a spoke out from the hub to the rim to focus your awareness. And after each one, we're going to take a nice deep breath before moving on. So let's turn our attention to the first quadrant. That's our five senses. So one by one, doesn't really matter what order we take them in. Take time to focus your awareness on what you're seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching. I'm going to let you do this on your own. Just leave a little bit of silence for tuning into your five senses. If your eyes have been closed, you might want to open them for the sense of sight. And again, as we do this, remember to kind of use that beginner's mind. So seeing things or experiencing things as if for the first time. What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you taste? And what do you touch? Okay, so that's the five senses. Let's take a nice deep breath and let it out. Now let's focus our attention on the sixth sense, our inner sensations of our own body. This is the second quadrant around the hub. So take a few moments to move your focus throughout your body internally, becoming aware of sensations you feel from inside your physical being. From the muscles and joints and bones, limbs and torso, feeling any sensations inside the body. Maybe you notice the heart beating. Maybe you notice the inside of the mouth or even the inner ear. Or if you swallow, that sense of inside the neck and feeling the throat. Maybe your stomach is digesting something. Maybe you can feel that. If you really tune in, maybe you can feel the heart beating. What else can you feel inside the body? If you move a little bit, maybe stretch a little bit, maybe your shoulders, for example, maybe you can sort of feel inside, kind of from the inside out. Or some other joint that you can move and feel from the inside out. So you're feeling the bones and the muscles and the tendons, maybe some other part of that interoception. Maybe you're hungry or maybe you're full. Okay, now let's come back and feel the breath again. Nice deep breath. Moving on to the next quadrant, which is activities of the mind itself. So these can include emotions, thoughts, memories, hopes, beliefs, dreams, images, all sorts of things, right? And usually the mind is going off on its own pretty strong. What I want you to do with this is see if you can just be aware of activities of the mind, kind of stepping back from them and just being a neutral observer, the way we do with the thought exercise, just noticing a thought come and go. So we're not engaging with it, we're just observing it. Maybe notice the type of thought. You can label it, or maybe there's an emotion that arises that's attached to a particular thought. Maybe you notice a memory or some image surfaces. Just be aware without engaging with it, just sort of letting these mental events pass through your awareness. I'll be quiet for a moment so you can do that. Okay, now the next step staying with the mental activities is to pay attention to the characteristics of these mental activities when they enter and leave consciousness. This is a little bit more advanced, perhaps, or difficult. So just really paying attention. See if you can notice when a thought appears and then leaves or fades away. Something else kind of takes its place. Sometimes it's sudden or gradual. Maybe there's something that's more kind of constant or fading in and out. Maybe there's a gap between two mental activities. See if you can kind of be a detective and pay attention a little bit more closely. Okay, very good. Now, if that was hard, don't worry about it. Certainly don't give yourself a hard time. Some of this takes a little practice. This is a little different. And actually, the next part of the exercise is a little different also. So, as in other parts of the practice, we're sending a spoke of attention out from the hub, but this time, so we're going to bend it back towards the hub itself to direct your attention to focus on your awareness. So with this part of the practice, you're working on awareness of awareness. That part of you that's aware of these other senses and feeling what that's like. This can take a little practice also, so try to be patient. That inner part of the hub of the wheel that's aware. Don't try too hard, just let it be. Just realize that there's an inner part of you that's aware of all this different stuff. Sort of like we're being aware, if our mind and our awareness is like an open sky, everything that passes through it, like all those sensations, are like clouds or weather passing through the open sky. But our basic core natural awareness is the sky itself. That's what we're sort of just hanging out with the sky and letting everything else pass through. Okay, very good. So thanks for just trying that. So just continuing on, there's one more quadrant. Let's take a deep breath and let it out. And the fourth quadrant represents our sense of connection to things outside of our body. So start with focusing on people who are physically close to you. Just be aware of anybody who might be kind of nearby. And then expand to others who are further away. So maybe not physically close, but others maybe to family and friends, others you're engaged with, such as coworkers or others that you interact with in your work or in your day-to-day life. And then widen your sense of connection step by step to include those who live in your neighborhood, in your city, in our whole country, in the continent, and then the whole world. Finally, so we're really expanding to be aware of all living beings. Really opening up our awareness. And you might send a message of kindness that we often do in our loving kindness practices. May you all be, this includes yourself as well, may you all be safe, may you be healthy, may you be happy and well, may you be free from suffering, may you live with ease. And just sort of resting for a moment before we close in that message. Maybe taking the last deep breath before we finish the practice. Reconnecting. All right. That was a bit longer today. You can open your eyes slowly, gradually come back to your present surroundings, kind of reconnect, maybe stretch a little bit, move a little bit. My computer actually went on screensaver, so hopefully that didn't affect anything. Hopefully you heard me through the whole thing. But yeah, let's just take a minute to process that. I know it's a little different, especially with the part about being aware of mental activities and the space between them when they come and go, but also the part about just being aware of our awareness. What do you think? Any thoughts or comments or questions about any of that? What was that like for you? Very hard. Okay, good, thank you. It is hard, especially those parts of the practice. So a lot of times, meditation, sometimes we think to ourselves that this is hard, especially if we're trying to quiet our mind and our mind is really busy. We think that it's hard, but that's sort of try to go with the flow and, might practice this again sometime. I don't have a recording on this, but I could send it out. That felt really good. Thank you. But try not. The big message here is to be kind to yourself and don't be hard on yourself if you found it hard. So that was very grounding, especially the 5 senses. Felt refreshing to slow down. Yeah, it really slows us down and grounds us. So thank you for saying it's being grateful for this time. That's great. But just getting back to that, those are a little more different, especially those, like really noticing mental activities and that being aware of awareness. So I'll maybe try to do some more of that on our Take 10 Teams meditation. I don't know if you join in on that, but I'll tell you about that in a minute. Any other comments or questions about that particular exercise called the Wheel of Awareness? Let's go back one. That's the visual. The hub is that center part of being aware, open, peaceful, calm. You might think of it as sort of like being the eye of the hurricane, or like I said in the meditation, you're the open sky. That's basically your core part, your natural awareness, everything that flows through, all the weather patterns, all the clouds and weather systems. Those are all of that stuff that's moving on through. But who we really are, our awareness itself, is that central hub. All right, so this is just another thing from the Greater Good magazine, which is also from UC Berkeley. They have a great newsletter. You can sign up for that, but this link takes you to further reading about hands-on research about the science of touch. So if you're interested in that, And then I'm in the middle of this class. I know some of you might already be in this, but we still have 3 classes to go. There's the third class is next week. You can still join if you haven't, if you want to. And the third class next week, these are Tuesdays at 12 to 12:45. And the first 2 classes are actually on that Thrive live and recorded resources page. So if you want to go back and watch the recordings, they're there, but you don't have to. It's not like they're a prerequisite. And on the 15th, we're going to be talking about connection. And on the 29th, talking about insight. And then the very last class in August, we're going to be talking about purpose. These are all using this app. So even if you can't or don't want to join the class, I highly recommend this app called Healthy Minds. It's free. This particular link will take you there. You can get it on any one of the app stores. And it's based on the work of Dr. Richard Davidson from the University of Wisconsin's Center for Healthy Minds. And the app is really terrific. I mean, it's got brief lessons that talk about each part of those 4 pillars: awareness, connection, insight, and purpose. And then there's lessons, and then there's a meditation practice. So it's really well organized. It's really nicely done. Small pieces. You can adjust the time. You can make them quiet sitting practices, or you can make them active practices so that you're doing something. You can listen to them and practice as you're doing. So check that out. And just a reminder about our EFR services. This slide is in here. You know, we do provide counseling and work-life resources and critical incident stress response, legal and financial. And there's a great website that has actually a lot of really good information and articles and webinars and stuff like that on there. And they now have a new app. This is different than the one I was just talking about, but the Carillon app for EFR is available, and you can access it just like really going onto the website itself, but it's all on your phone. And you can start by accessing services, but you can also explore the articles and the videos and the podcasts and the webinars and all the stuff that's on there. And what you do is, again, just go to either app store and you search for Carillon BH. That stands for behavioral health. Carillon BH. I think they ask you for your company affiliation. I think they have it listed as Yellowhaven Health System. So that's really nice. We also have a full page of meditations on there. You'll see it on the home page. It's called Take a Break Relaxation Audios, and that takes you to the full page of meditations. Yeah, we're still doing the phone meditations, and they're now on Teams. So if you don't have the Teams invite, just let me know. I'm happy to send it to you. And they're still Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at noon, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2. They are live meditations. I just do Tuesdays and Wednesdays now. We have Cecily does Mondays and Thursdays, and Tom, one of our counselors, does Fridays. So those are still happening, but if you need the invite, you can let me know in the chat or just send me an email and I'll forward you the invite. And yeah, it'd be great to have you with me on or others with that. Do want to remind you about our Thrive Health Coaching. This is relatively new, and you can get one-to-one health coaching for any of these issues. And the way to start that is to email thrivehealthcoaching@ynhh.org. And I think they're mostly done by virtual video sessions, but they work out of mainly New Haven, I think. So if you're in the New Haven area, you can possibly meet with them face-to-face, but mostly they're video sessions. But there's 2 health coaches, Carly and Kristen, really great. So they're available. And by the way, I didn't mention this before. My classes, this particular class and the health coaching all qualify for the Thrive, the Know Your Numbers, personal choice activities. So you can get, like for my classes, it gets $100 per class, up to 2 classes. And you just enter it into the platform And it's like a self-attestation. You don't have to prove it. You just put in the class that you took. All right, I see okay, have to drop, no problem. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Good, I appreciate the comment here about I've tried the active and sitting practices in the Healthy Mind app. Thanks for encouraging us. Yeah, I really like that app. All right, so with that, just again, this is the Thrive. If you don't know about that, you find it under T on the intranet, and it takes you to this honeycomb thing of My Wellbeing is where the EFR stuff is. This is our internal site, right? The My Health, that's where you'll find the Know Your Numbers information. But if you don't know about that, you might want to take a little time to explore that. And yeah, thank you for the thank yous. And the last slide is just to say thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. As I mentioned, this is being recorded, so I'm going to stop the recording now. And thanks so much for your presence and your practice. And I'll hang around if you have any questions. Let me stop that first.